New.
In the past 5 months, I went to Pakistan.
Yeah, nice. Yeah.
In the past 5 months, I mean, it's been a lot going on for sure. I got laid off of work.
Rip.
Yeah, rip.
You're not the only one. I mean, I think the market is just kind of.
Oh, I am not worried, right? What I mean, you keep your head down. You just can't. You realize that there are other ways to measure your success and yourself other than how much shareholder value you generate. So, yeah, I'm really looking forward to a future that is not me. I mean, thing is, in this situation, like everyone's kind of you're in this corporate environment. You're always selling invisible products that don't really yeah. But that's uh, soon you won't be able to sell. Like that's the only product you'll be able to sell because of the tariffs and all.
Yeah, no actual goods.
Yeah.
Like, wouldn't it have made more sense to develop that industrial capacity domestically first and then slap all those I mean, if you really want to do that.
I don't know how you would go about doing this, to be honest, without just like. I guess he. I don't really think even he foresees this being some like new age of industrial capacity being like rejuvenated nationwide. I think he was thinking he would use this as a way to get China to like negotiate. To an extent, I feel like it's both things. It's a misread on where China is right now.
Typical American, yeah.
It's also a legitimate fear of encroachment. I mean, encroachment, quote unquote, encroachment on U.S. interests abroad. Honestly, like Chinese influence in Asia, Africa right now. I feel you honestly can argue this is a bit too late, too little, too late. These tariffs, so they won't really end up doing. He's gonna have to take them back, and with this, so much of like with the consolidation of the market here, so much of the big players producing and exporting, manufacturing stuff in China, India now. I think Apple moved theirs from China to India. They're manufacturing, or they're trying to by 2026. You just can't foresee anything like that happening. There's no productive labor being conducted here, to be honest, except for like oil and gas.
Yeah,
and
oil
like
and gases.
It's a service economy, and I think he is definitely using a long-standing issue that the two-party system has. Played ping pong with, to be honest, because what else can the two-party system differentiate from like the other? What is their differentiating factor from the other party?
I mean, the cosmetics aside and the cultural issues aside.
Yeah.
So.
The responsibilities of government, like foreign policy and defense, of money supply and of legality, have been outsourced to undemocratic uh, and or lifetime term positions with the Supreme Court, with the legality, and then the Fed with the money supply, and with the National Security Council and defense. There is just nothing of substance that the Dems have been, and Dems and the Republicans a little bit later on, because I think the Republicans emerged around 1860 or a little before that, as a second party. There's nothing else they could differentiate except for tariffs, and this was a main sticking point for the original contradicting mode of like the mode of production.
So go into that, like because you were talking about this the other day. I mean, not necessarily comprehensively, but the history of the use of tariffs is not understood. People think this tariff stuff is new, but you were talking about how this this has been going on for a while between the parties.
The Dems being the original party and representing the much more populous at that time, around the turn of the around the beginning of the 19th century. They relied on low tariffs and westward expansion as the selling points to the labor force here. That hey, we'll keep tariffs low. There'll be an import of cheaper goods,
Yep.
while you can sustain yourself by expanding westward and settling.
Incentive being land, and you'll take the land and you'll get a supply of goods.
Yeah. And they're not talking about like you going to Colorado. The westward frontier that they're discussing is like, hey, do you want free land that's 80 miles that way?
Yeah.
And yeah, 80 miles is 800 miles in today's time, right? As in, it was just harder to
transportation is different now.
But regardless, we're not talking about you relocating to California in the middle of nowhere. They're saying you want to go take your horse, go settle some land there, create a homestead, put up a fence, and fight off any Indians with your musket. Native Americans with your musket.
Yeah.
I don't want to.
Well, I mean, that's what they were calling that, right?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I would assume. At that time the Federalists, or I think they would be they were more in with the merchant classes and protectionist policy.
Hamilton,
John Adams. Thing is, that party quickly loses power after John Adams and never regains it again. So this country is operating as a one-party state from Thomas Jefferson to when the Whig presidents come into power. But the issue is, we'll get into that. The Whig presidents, to get their credibility politically, they kept having their vice president be a Democrat. And then the Whigs would die in office. So this country, in a 12-year span, had 5 presidents. And the tariff issue, the protectionism that the Federalists wanted, it was to protect their merchant base in the Northeast, as well as like consolidate an aristocratic business class. So they were not they were not populist by any stretch. They were completely opposite, opposing the main mode of production in the country, which is everywhere that is considered South Pennsylvania downwards. It's all operating on these farms. And the more south you go, more plantations.
Right.
When the Whigs come into power in 1840, I believe, their president dies within a month. And the VP is a Democrat, so he continues with Democratic policies throughout that period. And the outright after that, I think in 1845 with the expansion into Texas, that was done by the Democrats. And that's where you see the inception, the coming together of what we know today as the Republicans. The Lincoln Republicans start coming into being around 1850. The state comes into its own being, is able to exert some kind of might. It knows what it's able to do after the Civil War. Before that, the extent of what the state's power was not even. Presidents did not.
They
didn't think about it. They didn't know this was the extent of the power of the state. And when it came to defend itself, the state has mobilized and used its resources to come to its defense. Now it's fully legitimized its power throughout this area.
Right.
This is where these corporate interests, the railway industry and the arms industry, come into. They come into play, because since we've printed all this fake fiat money, MOUs that you can cash in later, and you funded this war effort for us. As soon as the war ends, you traded in your fake money for gold. And now you are going to buy out this new state that we've created. All these new agencies, the reconstruction agencies, are bought out by corporations. Specific corporations by people, like corporations dealing specifically with the arms industry and the railroads.
Right.
So, and since they have the unbridled control of the state, they're able to put down any labor infractions on their operations. any strike. Throughout the next 2 decades, you see that they're able to put this down. During this time, we see, since it's Republicans in power, higher tariffs. And this is put to an end in 1916 with the income tax, where the Democrats, who have finally found themselves back into the political power sharing operation we know today, they think, hey, instituting this income tax will put this to bed, and this is the only thing the Republicans are kind of fighting on, apart from weeding out the state that the Democrats had created originally, right, of its corruption and its largesse. The issue with this tariff thing being reignited right now, and he's using this in conjunction with, hey, I'll lessen income tax and stuff. It's harkening back to only three political generations back, right?
Okay.
It shows this regressing to a pre-New Deal politic in this country. It's always been the mode for both parties to kind of get to that point, and now we've seen fully that we've gone back into the political, the Overton window being, hey, how far back do we want to go pre-New Deal? Now, if this being a ploy, or this being an actual ideological stance that he's taken on, and he thinks that can be carried out, that depends on how smart you think he is. People can, on any given day, you can think he's an idiot, and the next day you think he's
clever guy.
He's a clever guy. This is a political ploy. He'll get China to the table. For us, the issue is, we know this will cause prices to skyrocket.
Yeah.
Simultaneously, this free trade imperium that has been imposed is what the empire relies on. So then, it is dismantling the empire in a way for us to be diluting these trade relations that he's doing inadvertently almost. It's almost in the interest of anyone who is against this imperium to. It's almost in the interest of for people of our ilk for him to be making these transgressions onto that free trade imperium, right, that's been imposed specifically post World War II. So you're seeing that New Deal, World War II, American imperial order that's been set being dismantled. We're going back to a more isolationist time period.
Right.
Which is great, because this country is only whenever it dabbles into geopolitics, it's always
incredibly violent, and so that goes with him trying to get out of NATO, and which brings me to Russia's invasion of Ukraine. That was we recorded an episode on the day of that invasion, and between then and now, that has also been something that has brought about, I think, on the part of countries in Latin America and Africa and even in Asia, them decoupling, or not decoupling, but saying, hey, we're going to put our eggs in other baskets. And I guess maybe having the boldness to do that, having seen Russia being forced into that situation. And I think that was kind of the last, any trust that was there, that the U.S. maybe they're kind of a bully, but it's no, these guys are absolute bad faith actors. It's absolutely mask off. And so on the domestic front, this is happening with the tariffs. Tariffs being international, but on the domestic front, that's. And on the other hand, I think the economic shifts and the geopolitical shifts that have happened there are aiding that collapse on the end of folks in the global south.
Yeah,
I'm thinking Ibrahim Traore.
I saw. I talked to you. We saw that speech. I think the same speech he gave recently
at the African Union.
And this outright, this has been an ongoing process, right? We know, like, the U.S. has gone about it by killing off the leadership, and now we're seeing a new wave of leadership throughout West Africa. A lot of this has been sparked by the naked aggression shown against Russia by shutting down, trying to isolate it financially, and using the dollar as an instrument of war.
Yeah.
That has scared client states. That has scared any country that is non-aligned historically, like India.
Yeah.
Someone even like, honestly, for Egypt, and you understand that your logistics as far as water and stuff, and your finances, your military gear is totally dependent on. And I'm talking about Egypt's military
Right.
apparatus that is in charge. You are kind of finding yourself cornered and without a way out, except for kind of weaning yourself off the dollar slowly, and that is not. That's not going. That is going to be a violent process.
Yeah.
Right? That is the empire is not going to let you.
It's going to resist that at all costs because the whole thing is based on the dollar. The whole thing is propped up by the dollar.
And I mean, this is what the tariffs were meant to like. I feel like this is in conjunction with the Fed making the dollar so expensive in international markets and basically starving its like worldwide, except for the most select comprador elites. Everyone else is is dealing with their currency being devalued, prices going up. And his institution of these tariffs, which is again, he's trying to like impose something on China while simultaneously he's using the American might to kind of de-Americanize the world trade, which again, I'm not saying that's his aim or what he's intending on, but it's even those comprador elites now are like wondering out loud, what do we do when with these tariffs, with the Fed being so rigid in its quantitative tightening, you are looking for other allies. And I feel like maybe even people, you'll see this maybe, for example, in Iran, where now reformists even, people who were like, hey, let's shake hands with the U.S., try to like find a common ground, are more open to dealing with Russia, dealing with China.
Yeah.
Letting them kind of come and mediate these issues. And you'll see down the road that I cannot think that China was not playing a role in this settlement in Syria.
Sure, yeah. Belt and Road goes through there. I mean,
as it progressed, as the things progress, and it's working in some kind of. I'm not saying they're some kind of duo, but they have some kind of coordination happening with Moscow. There's this deal that I guess culminated within a week, 2 weeks. People knew what was happening a week out. Like there was a sudden like spark, and
it was quick.
Yeah, it became very much like apparent what was gonna happen. This regime is gonna fall
within days.
Yeah, and Bashar al-Assad's position was already like tented. Like it was very like
matter of time.
It was too many bodies. At some point, you had to go. Like you can't just. I don't know what was the end game here, right, for him. And I don't know what the end game was for his allies, except for just like at some point it's been 15 years of the civil war. Yeah. As soon as that realization happened, I feel like Iran, Russia, UAE, and I think and with back channeling, I definitely think Saudi and China are involved in some capacity of, hey, this is the amicable end to this Syrian conflict, and not everyone's gonna win something, but it can be
the amicable end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it it worked out for everyone because if you're Iran, and not to get into a tangent about Syria again, but if you're Iran, you're like, hey, this works out because our main guy there, his position was already very like not like he was he was a lame duck whether you like it or not.
He was a lame duck, and he was the weakest link in the resistance axis ideologically, and I mean, in terms of what he was contributing materially, aside from saying, hey, you can use this space.
Yeah, I mean, as in he was of. You saw that, you know, him not opening up a second front, and
disaster.
And from his position, you're like, hey, I mean, again, for him, he obviously recognized that his power is totally tied to being within this axis and not going head on against the empire. Also, making sure you keep that door open.
Right.
I'll fight these militias and these units and these Turkish backed rebels and all that. I'm not coming directly in
conflict with the Israelis.
Yeah. And he realized at some point that, hey, these Israelis have killed off the Lebanese leadership. They've killed people, the Palestinian leadership in Iran. The Iranian president died, and I'm not sure how much of that is like tied to Mossad as well. But if you're to him, you're like, you know, let's get.
Now you don't know where to go.
You have no end game except for this. To be honest, like at some point you like it's with the Shah. Like at some point, if you were like your position is not secure, you're looking for ways to get out of the country and secure the bag somewhere else.
Yeah. And well, he was trying to off-road, you know, into or off-ramp into you know, the GCC and into that sphere, and was hoping that normalization would happen, or some kind of normalization with the United States. I think he was back-channeling with the UAE. It's just a very weird combination of, like, biting the hand that feeds you, but then also trying to, like, not have all your eggs in one basket, but doing that at the expense of, like, then the Palestinians, and it's just a very messy situation.
How much do you think this is like a November surprise type situation? October surprise, November surprise type? Where like the Trump incoming government deals with the Russians. They're like, hey, look, man, like this Ukraine thing is going to get secure one way or another because we're coming in power.
Yeah.
Here, you know.
So I don't think that Trump was saying, you know, I'm going to end the Russia-Ukraine thing on the day that I come into office, whatever. I don't know how confident he was about that, because I didn't see Russia just being like, oh, okay, like you want to, again, like the whole thing of like the US is fundamentally untrustworthy and a bad faith actor. I think that the Russian invasion of Ukraine was the clear, just like, cut. And I don't know, I'm not saying that there will never ever be diplomatic relations between Russia and the United States again, but certainly not on the same terms that there were before, and not anywhere near that. And so I don't think it's as necessarily as easy as a geopolitical trade-off. I think Russia wants some very serious guarantees of security of its interests, which go beyond just, hey, let's sit at the table, because they've been doing that since the 90s.
Well, I mean, what if you think it includes just the consolidation and or incorporation of they have the two provinces,
the Donbass and
like Donetsk and Luhansk, and they have another Kherson that I think is like something that they secured. And I'm not gonna pretend that I know Crimea that they've already had since 2014. And I guess removal of Zelensky and the NATO red line. Yeah. I feel like if those things, which I think, like, as soon as Trump came in, apart from the tariffs, that's been his main thing.
But see, then he's also talking about, okay, well, he went in talking to Zelensky, hey, give us your
Google Home isn't set up yet. To get started, download the Google Home app on a phone or tablet.
Yeah, I don't even know, honestly, how to use this thing.
Yo, but it's still listening to you. It knows how to use you. It can hear you.
Like, I tried, and like, I have multiple of these Google devices.
Yeah.
And, like, whenever, like, I unplug them, then they need to, like, I get confused on how to... But Google products, and I'm just, you know, since we're on this topic, they're terrible.
Really?
Yeah, I mean...
I haven't, like, I don't have, like, a Google Home. Or are you talking about their hardware, or...?
Bro, just think about how much access to data Google had over the past 25 years.
Yeah.
And how much people only use Google.
Yeah. You
would think using all those two tools, they would have produced some amazing hardware and IoT devices, phones.
Yeah.
Instead, they have all the money in the world too. They've
Yeah.
done like you look at all their products except for Google search, which also sucks by the way.
Yeah.
But
Well, Google search sucks, but it's like the only thing that who uses DuckDuckGo or whatever the other.
Bing?
Yo, remember Ask Jeeves?
Ask Jeeves.
Yo, that was the shit.
That's why, like, you know, someone was telling me recently, yo, oh, what about AI and this? And I'm like, yo, it's all fake. There's no AI. And they're like, what about ChatGPT? I'm like, yo, like, you could like have chatbots like 20
Yeah,
years
bro.
ago. It just looks better. It's better UI and all that, but it's just the same, like, you know,
Yeah.
same pig, different makeup.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. Crazy.
But going back to what we were talking about with this, yeah, I mean, I agree. It's not an easy trade-off. I felt like Russia, with their main comprador, they're ducking one way or another. Like he had to go somewhere. Like he was looking for where he can run.
Yeah,
to.
yeah.
So you're like, well, this is gonna fall apart here. So how do I make the best of a bad situation? And here I have a partner who I at least 4 or 5 years ago was on good trade terms with, and I think the sticking point is a minerals deal here more than like the Russian advancement. I mean,
Yeah.
of course, giving up power for Zelensky is not the MO, but he is also answering to an apparatus back there.
Yeah.
It's more so like, hey, you lost that completely and the minerals deal. You have like, and again, if you're Russia, you're like, hey, if they make this minerals deal, that kind of goes.
That what's the point of it? It's, now you definitely have a U.S. presence on your
Yeah.
border, like because they're gonna make the mineral deal. They're gonna make sure there's security for that. If they're not gonna do it through NATO, they do it through direct U.S. troops.
I mean,
Or training the Ukrainian military, or either way, it's the U.S.
yeah,
being
yeah.
militarily, security-wise, intelligence-wise involved on the Russian border. All of it is a non-starter for Russia.
And I think this is also a pre-FDR border, because
Shit! Yeah, that's
it is
crazy.
also
Yeah.
by I think
I didn't realize that, but yeah.
Stalin took eastern Ukraine in 1940,
Okay.
but they I think the Polish had taken that part of Ukraine from earlier after World War II.
Yeah.
So between that 10, 15 year span, that area changed hands between the Soviets, the Ukrainians, and the Polish. So it is like a pre-New Deal,
Yeah.
pre-FDR border that we're going back to. So
yeah,
it
it's crazy.
it is interesting. This like a very like the interesting to see what happens now that if we go back towards that time period, and you don't have the force of the British worldwide, the French, someone who is going a natural inheritor of that imperial crown.
Yeah.
As opposed to post World War I, where U.S. is up and alive.
Yeah.
And
One amongst others.
yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens from here, and the trope will be, I know will be used. We'll just be exchanging one hegemon for another with China or Russia or something, and I don't feel that that'll be the case.
It reminds me of this video game, and now I forgot what the video game was called, but it was basically there are three. It's like this sci-fi thing, and there are three. The world is in like three factions. There's Otalo, we can cut it out.
Mm-hmm.
The world is in three factions. There's like the U.S., there's Europe, or there's like the U.S., North America, then there's Europe as like one faction, and then there's like Russia, China, and they have it like this corporate thing. And I always thought like, okay, so Europe and America are separate. Like this game came out years and years and years ago, ages ago. So I was like, how are Europe and America separate? So they can fight each other at some point or what? Now you're coming to see that like it's not as, I mean, at that time it was just a video game. I was thinking about people shooting people. I mean that's real life too. But you get what I'm saying, right? I was thinking about but it makes sense now. The decoupling would have a different nature than what it would be reduced to in a video game or a movie.
Yeah. I wonder, how much that decoupling, and I hope someone makes a video game about this. I'm pretty sure they have. Paradox probably has like a video game where the people who have now embedded themselves in the imperial core, who are part of that expats, let's say expats, how they deal with that cleavage from the world, and it will be in my opinion, just forming a new identity.
Yeah.
Right. You already see that a bit right now, and we talked about this when we sat with. We hinted at it. We didn't want to outright get into it, and I think hopefully next season we'll be like talking more in depth about this.
Yeah.
The evangelicism that arises from being in the empire.
Yeah. You pick up that Protestant ethic.
Yeah, and in that, we're all, like, so much of these new expat like these diaspora populists, they'll be finding their birth right here. They'll be forming their identity right here, and they'll be identifying with the empire and reforming it. They will not be imagining. They will not want to imagine a world that is devoid of this imperial order.
Yeah.
More of like a reformation of it.
Right.
The Eurocentric or the American-centric, the American exceptionalism, in its latent forms even maybe, will exist.
Yeah. I think there is like a inherent. It's weird because these parts of the world, South Asia, the Middle East, like wherever it is where diaspora populations come here from, are formerly and now neo-colonially colonized lands. You come to the heart of empire, and there's that shift of now you want to rub shoulders with, a certain type of people. You come here. You were talking about this the other day, right? It's not. These immigrants are not just like Irish day laborers. Now you have an Indian doctor coming here, a Chinese like IT guy coming here, and that professional managerial class type of folk is not gonna necessarily want to see the thing that he came here for, the stability that empire has. Doesn't want to see that collapse, but in doing that now, you're perpetuating and you're aligning your interest with the resource rape that comes with the colonization of. So you just happen to be the lucky one that came, right? The difference between
You won the immigration lottery.
Yeah, you won the immigration lottery, and so now you get to be the jester in the king's court. You get the perks of the king's court. You're nothing more than a jester. You never will be what you want to be. You want to be an Obama, right? You want to be an Uncle people. Malcolm X was talking about this, right? Like in that context, right? There's this identity crisis, and people want to harken back to back home, right? While fundamentally being aligned with the interests of empire, they have now taken it. I feel like being from a place with a different language, different culture, whatnot, it's going to become more of an aesthetic than anything else as people get further and further away from their language. The language is a big part of it, right? The more your from the way I see it, the more your ability to speak your home language, quote unquote home language, erodes. That's a huge indicator of how connected you possibly can be, right? And the more and more English is your language, the stuff that's in the English language medium is also then your mentality. Yeah. And that there, you've basically, people say like, oh, we should come here and integrate and not assimilate. All right, your integration doesn't matter because everything that's not assimilated is pretty much aesthetic.
Yeah, if that's the language. You being able to like consume some kind of media from back home really like changes. And this is not to dive into a tangent. Someone recently told me like, hey, in Pakistan everyone's quitting the military because India's about to invade, and this is like 2 weeks after like this whole incident at Pahalgam or whatever. Yeah. And I was like, who told you this? And it's like, he consumes a lot of Bollywood, so his feed is all like, some ANI, like,
What was I
are
not?
not, it's like the, like it's like Indian Fox News.
Oh.
They have their own Sean Hannity. It's like the Arnab Goswami guy.
Wait, was this an Indian dude telling you this?
No, it's a Pakistani
Oh,
guy.
that's
But
crazy.
since he consumed mostly
Yeah,
Indian media,
yeah.
he's consuming Indian Hindi
Right.
media. His algorithm, whatever he's picking up on his like Twitter feed, his
Yeah.
Instagram feed is all like, oh, like Indian propaganda. And
Yeah.
then like, if you're like if any connection to Pakistan, you're like, bro, these people are not. We'll dive into the India-Pakistan thing, but they're not serious people.
Well, so the algorithm on Twitter, it's while you're on Twitter and or whatever ChatGPT, whatever it is, right? Wherever there's an algorithm on your phone, whatever. And as you use the algorithm, it custom tailors to your usage, but it's also custom tailoring your mental algorithm to the usage of the service.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that goes back again into the language thing, is that what algorithm are you thinking in, right? And what associations culturally or like mentally do you make with even like certain words? Right.
The logic and the reasoning, even
The reasoning, the logic.
What they consider, what someone here would consider the normative way of like a society functioning, and viewing their own, I guess for lack of a better term, homelands or wherever they immigrated from the perspective of the liberal elite class here historically, which has found the liberal elite class here finds its birth apart from the original oligarchs, the founding fathers, and so on and so forth, which I think the original founding fathers stay into power until the 1820s. And the liberal elite in its current iteration here found its birth in 1883 with the Civil Service Act, the Pendleton Act.
Yeah.
And I believe it was Chester Arthur who was president, if I'm not wrong. I believe so. And them passing that cut off, apart from cutting off the vestige of they cut off the connection the labor had with the two-party order, where you can demand a job for your service to the party, or you get some kind of spoils, the spoils system that Andrew Jackson had. You got something, some patronage, something out of this whole system. That was completely cleaved and replaced with this liberal intelligentsia who was professionalized and views things in a very set logic and reasoning. 1883, and you see this coming to fruition with the election of Woodrow Wilson, where this is what America wants to be now. This is what the upper 30%, 40% of the country is aspiring to be like. Instead of the war generals of the 1800s, or Donald Trump, the brash person now, or finding some kind of calmness and wisdom in Joe Biden's elderly age, whatever the hell it is. Even though now we're entered into a more primitive political age than, apparently, depending on who you ask, but. As in, like, Woodrow Wilson had a stroke in office and no one called him
I was going to say, now you call each other Sleepy Joe.
Like, he ran for re-election and his opponent was like, no, I can't, I can't call this guy infirm because it would look bad. But that viewing the world as with the white knight, white savior complex, like, hey, look, the world's so messed up, and we might have some some indirect part in it. You don't want to talk too much about that, but just go around the edges and try to solve that issue while negating what causes it.
Right.
And then you're constantly putting bandages on different situations at home and abroad, and you see that Wilsonian ethic just trickle down all the way to where Jimmy Carter onwards, 70s onwards, there's just nothing to it. There's no reform that you can do without actually... There's only so many bandages you can put on the system without being like, you know what, let's just, again, go to a we're still Democrats, but we're pre-FDR, we're XYZ, and right now you almost see like the political theater being consumed with like like almost a Jacksonian democracy versus like a Nixonian republicanism.
What for us who don't know quite the difference?
The Nixonian like republicanism meaning trilateralism. Hey, let's keep our sphere of influence and deal with Russia and China as equal or whatever partners abroad, and you handle your sphere. You do what you want. We do our thing. Some codifying of Cold War, like Iron Curtain type, around the world, like just like cutting it through the edge, and that negates the need for competing with the other person. You're like, hey, we can only compete in an arms race, space race, economic race so
Some
much.
like Brzezinski type, or no?
Like Brzezinski, what do you mean by that?
I don't know. Who was Nixon's advisor? Nixon had an advisor.
Was Brzezinski the advisor for Nixon?
I don't know. Maybe I'm tripping.
That's Mika Brzezinski's dad.
Trilateral.
It's a big new.
I don't know how to pronounce it.
I don't know what his.
Okay, I might be tripping. I just.
No, I honestly, it might be that.
I remember reading something about Nixon, one of Nixon's advisors having that kind of, and reading about the term trilateralism came up. So anyway, continue.
And I mean, he's simultaneously weaponizing the dollar against their own comprador states. Like, they're doing it against Western Europe now, and they're not trying to use that as like the Democrats were post World War II as a way to like expand U.S. power. Instead, the Nixonian Republicans are like, well, we have this power and this populace here to enslave here at home. Why do we need to worry about what's happening in like freaking Vietnam?
Right.
That's why again, like subsequently, immediately, Nixon is thrown out of office because you're not towing the state line.
Yeah.
You can do whatever governance you want. The state line
interest
needs to be towed.
Right.
And I guess Nixon found himself a little too far away from the his interests diverging a little too much from the state's interests. But Jacksonian democracy was like, hey, head on with the banks, westward expansion, and a lot of I think he was from Tennessee, so he's from a frontier state, and that's what's kind of informing his politic. This coming face to face against the banks is something that Trump has taken on.
Yeah.
And the expansionism is something Trump has taken on.
Yeah.
And the Nixonian trilateralism is something Trump has taken on with the tariffs.
Yeah.
And I mean, Nixon didn't deal with the tariffs as much, obviously, but this is all coming together as an interesting sidelining of democratic politic, because you have nothing to run on at this moment. The Nixonian ethic or that we just discussed, or the Jacksonian democracy that was the actual first deviation from the founding fathers. Before that, every founding father up till John Quincy Adams in 1824, when he ends his term, they're all part of the original consensus, and they are just running the state based on keeping the consensus together. Jackson's the first one who is not born out of that consensus.
Right. Okay.
I forgot why we started discussing this specific topic, actually.
Yeah, so did I.
Yeah, it was something to do with. I mean, God knows what we were just talking about. Bullshit.
Yeah, we were talking about something, but I mean, hey, the Democrats can run on Medicare for all.
Medicare for all, and the oligarchs,
the oligarchs.
But we're talking about like who takes on the original, who takes on. That's what we're talking about. Which person takes on the spirit of the country? Like who's? I don't want to talk about this spiritually at all. By the way, this is a terrible project.
Yeah.
This is a project born out of suppression. But after the original oligarchs, you saw military generals keep on coming, getting elected because westward expansion necessitated that face to be the front of the country. And now this brash person that is like in Trump, it shows almost a nationwide, whether you're elite, whether you're poor, whether you're whatever, this is a revolt against the HRification of corporations and community alike, where like you can't say anything in your workplace. And I mean, for them, it's obviously harassing people or whatever.
Yeah.
But whatever it is, or harassing people or like suppressing your political opinion because you can do a lot of pro-Israel things at work, but you can't do a lot of pro-Palestine things.
Yeah.
And in the community where you're like, wait, like, I can't, like, no topic can be discussed without someone, like, without Meghan McCain crying about her, like, feelings getting hurt, right? You can't critique any idea.
Yeah.
There's no one to actually go to except for forums that will criticize you for your tone, for your tenor. And I think these are very reductive, right? Like there's a much more like this is the face we want to project to the world in a time where, I mean, you've seen very incompetent leadership, impotent leadership, and it's not for the same reasons other people say, but we know Obama, what the aspirations people had with Obama when he got elected post Bush, because Bush, he inherited a crisis. And what he did with that, totally extracting any remaining wealth from the people and making sure that they're happy with crumbs.
Mm-hmm.
Instituting a liberal elite meritocracy, a moral meritocracy, instituting that and embedding that within the mind of anyone who has aspirations still with the empire or has made it in the empire. Like, hey, you can make it. As long as you put your head down and you're a good person and you're like, smart and all that, you make it. And whoever didn't, well, they didn't meet that checklist or criteria.
Well, that's perfect for the diaspora immigrant who comes here, because they come here to put their head down, make their money, raise their kids, and go forward. And while you're here and you're saying, man, I feel terrible for what's happening to Palestine and whatnot, but then you go about your daily life and materially you are an adversary of the Palestinian people. And not just that, but most of the people on earth, to be honest.
Well, because you're in this freaking shell of, like, nothingness. You're not part of the empire, really. You're not hanging out with, there's no assimilation in these communities, to be honest. The big urban areas, historically, Irish people hang out with Irish people.
Yeah.
In now, contemporary times, in most urban environments, people come together unless, like, they've assimilated to, like, that extent.
Right.
Or
Right.
that detached from their own communities.
Right.
Hang out with their communities.
Yeah.
So you're kind of, like, cut off completely. And you're introduced to this environment. So many of that's honestly, this is a tangent. That's why I started hating Kobe Bryant after he died.
Huh? Why?
Cause it was like a deification of Kobe Bryant.
Oh, yeah.
Of like, hey, the working ethic and all of that. And it's like, dude, you come from countries where people are like day laborers, and your dad's been going to work. Unless he's like a doctor and he moved, and then you obviously have the class baggage to deal with. But if that is not the case, dude, your dad's been going to work at like 5 a.m. forever since you were a kid. That did not inspire you to get to LA Fitness. But Kobe dying in a helicopter like accident, now, like, I mean, I loved his game. Great guy, I'm sure. He was a good.
Rest in peace. I mean, growing up watching the Lakers, like he's a legend.
But watching him after his death, like, and he didn't intend to do that, I'm sure. Like, I guess, I don't know. Becoming the face of like immiseration in America, where like, hey guys, you have to do 3 jobs. Well, mama mentality, buddy, 3 jobs, and it's like, no, normal people should not be doing this. And the actual like mentality you should have is like, hey, I have to do what I have to do for sure. You can't cry about it. Simultaneously, like, why is it this way? I'm gonna break your neck if you're the one who's in charge of this. Like, as in, if you're the one who's like screwing me over, I'm gonna speak out. I'm not gonna put my head down and generate wealth for you while like, as in.
No, but that's the thing. That's where the interest lies, with the interest of the colonizer. You're coming here to rub shoulders with them, to try to make it to that echelon out of your shithole country.
Yeah, I mean,
so to speak.
I've seen so many people talk about like, hey man, we're a separate population than the underclass here, the lumpen, the plebeian, like the African Americans. The people will be talking about that like that way, and like they'll be talking about it from a superiority complex. Like, look at their streets, look at their areas, look at where they live, and it's like, dude, do you know where you're from?
Where you're
like,
from?
As in, and I'm transitioning like the areas that we're from. I mean, we've talked about this from a very like critical point of view, but with this India-Pakistan thing, and then the diaspora reaction here to these things, their disconnect, liberal elitist perspective while observing this thing, like, dude, people that are part of your class, PMC, liberal elite, they're living better lives than you are here. and they have a better understanding of world and sometimes science, math, and those subjects than you. Viewing this like, I don't know, it's a very like poo-pooey white savior, like, oh, like burden on, like, you know, like the white burden type situation.
White man's burden, yeah.
Yeah, and like these people do
these
this.
guys, yeah.
This is a normal thing. Why can't you just, you know, figure this out?
Yeah.
It's like,
why are they like this?
yeah.
Like,
Or you know, like taking on the like, oh, you know, it's the general. It's like a self-deprecating thing, bro. Like, there's 100 issues with Pakistan. And the best thing about the country is, like, people there will not have any, like, facade about it. Like, no one's sitting there and, like, this is... I mean, unless you ask some, like, dude, like, random, like, you know, crazy guy. But, like, there's not many people who are, like, rational, who are, like, this is Switzerland.
yeah.
This is France. But, like, you can go to India and you'll see people who are, like, pretending, like, yo, we've reached some new era of, like, advancement or whatever because we got to the moon. And it's like, dude, like, in mass... y'all are all like, if it's not working out for anybody in this situation already. There are certain classes that are on the precipice of like gaining entry into the imperial order, joining the productive forces around the world that are like driving capitalist growth. But in mass, India or Pakistan, you're not one of them. But again, in Pakistan, the average person knows that.
Yeah. In India, there's a delusion of grandeur.
There's a delusion of like, hey, the state interests are the same as mine.
Yeah.
And buying into the, like, I mean, honestly, I've never seen in this India-Pakistan situation. I've seen so many people just like buy propaganda, like, hey, why these Muslims do this? Why do these Islamists do this?
Well, because the state has the RSS apparatus. Right, the BJP has the RSS apparatus, and that goes beyond the politics. So now it's like very much like you are directly connected to the minds of all your constituents. You have summer camps for them. You have ideological like whatever, and I feel like it's genius because through civil society institutions and through these kind of cultural things and whatnot, you're able to capture the minds of people and to inculcate that national sense that like we are this great Indian nation. And I think if I don't this has so much power because the alternative, it doesn't have an infrastructure like the RSS infrastructure, right? Like the BJP has that.
I mean, yeah,
the whole Indian nationalist scene, not to reduce it to just one party, right? But that scene, that is like, it's not just a political party. It's like
it's something very much more
through
grassroots.
the culture, through daily life. It's a part of people's lives.
I think they really captured the anti-centralist, like this governance that the Congress has like formed over its like history, where there's a certain level of like, hey, we have created the Democratic Party syndrome, where like we created the state like apparatus from its origin, and now we've inherited it. So we're not talking against the state, we're preserving it. And that preservation requires constantly accommodating to these comprador elites of these areas that you're trying to like incorporate into your central union, whether it's in the south, the northeast, whether it's in Punjab, whether it's in Kashmir now, like wherever it is. And it doesn't have to be comprador elites also. You're just trying to like coerce people, like get them to submit to your authority. This is the kind of mass mobilization against this, and it's taken on this Hindutva aesthetic. Simultaneously, the propaganda you'll see people who are Muslim, who are Indian, who will be like, you know, having a very like problematic view on this, or like something about like, you know, like holding Pakistan accountable, or like holding Kashmiris accountable, or something about like, you know, reaffirming their allegiance to India. And it's like, dude, the fact that you need to do this is the issue. Like the fact that you need to like you know, like try be a pick-me for like you know, the Indian government or the Indian state or Indian population in mass, like you know, like it's and this is an ethic that they've taken on societally, like the obedience to I wouldn't say the obedience to the state, but whatever, like, I guess social apparatus they're a part of. These things trickle down and become culture.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like knowing this now and observing it also. I mean, we always, I think, might have had, like, understood there's a contradiction. The contradiction of living here and being against it, and then reconciling those things and figuring your way out of it. And you realize a lot of people have reconciled this contradiction by saying, hey, we're cleaved from this. So consciously or subconsciously. Consciously or subconsciously, they've said, hey, we're disconnected from that.
And so that brings about a problem, right? Because you have to specifically, at least for me, right? I had to specifically identify some of those like latent liberalisms and root them out. And especially when it's a subconscious thing, people aren't gonna do that. And that is the slippery slope then to just generationally it just keeps going. I mean, to come to the consciousness with which I approach things, like you have to be self-reflective and you have to decenter yourself from that Euro-American paradigm. But somebody also has to tell. I mean, I don't know though. Something has to kind of push you in that direction, right? And if that doesn't happen, then you are the perfect. I mean, you're doing good as a minority. You're doing good.
You're a model. You're a
model minority.
I mean,
you're compliant.
This post World War II, the system is built on, hey, you have it better than someone else, somewhere else.
Yeah.
Somewhere else that we just bombed. Would you rather be that person or the person we didn't bomb?
Yeah.
And that makes a choice easy.
Yeah.
Right. But hey, other people, you keep on telling you your life, even though it sucks, is better than someone else's life.
Right.
And I think we live under that facade. Most people here don't have a passport. The country's big. You can go around here and just, you don't need to go somewhere else and see how they live, what they do. I don't know how much that's necessary, but I mean, definitely helps. But it doesn't help them. It helps you kind of realize, my life here is tedious and alienated from my labor. And my mobility socially, my mobility financially there's a cap on it. There's a paywall to every single thing in life. And that might exist around the world, that's sure, but here you find those that whole life checklist kind of moving more towards like, hey, you're starting off your life, you're an infant till you're 40. Like you're constantly like going through jumping through these hoops of high school, an elongated high school experience, and come with an overly expensive college experience, then like an overly competitive and unproductive professional experience that can give you entry into familial life.
Yeah.
And that trajectory is just such a long-winded way of getting to places that, I mean, if you look at it bare bones, you shouldn't be starting off life at 35.
Yeah.
Like,
that's never happened before.
And
I mean, that was never normal before.
Yeah, us. The infantilization of the populace. I mean, you see it with Trump, right? You see like that. This is why this person is the president, because, I mean, even Biden. It's like we are willing to accept people just not growing up through and through. Your CEO doesn't need to grow up. Your president doesn't need to grow up. Someone can throw a fit at work if they're in the right position. As long as you can bear the consequences, financially, professionally, you can do whatever you want.
Yeah.
As far as like acting like a child.
Right.
You see this, and again, I want to zone in on the diaspora part of this. Your understanding of heritage, lineage, where you're from, identity. I mean, it's a complex issue, and this is something like we can honestly just do like 2-3 episodes alone on it. On like what is nationalism? What is identity? What formulates that? It's a complex thing that you can't just Google or whatever.
Right.
And you see the struggle right now with this here. I think the natural reconciliation of this issue will be a Shia, a Muslim, a Sunni, whatever, Sunni American nationalist.
A hyphenated identity where you have your kind of subculture within your community, and aside from that, you know, are a part of the mix.
Yeah, you might be you're akin to an Armenian
In
American,
LA or what?
where it's a lot of the social.
You may or may not be able to speak the language, a few words. It's an aesthetic. It's, you know, you've got your subculture, but you are subsumed into the melting pot, so to speak.
Yeah. I felt like the zero sum nature of this dawned upon me maybe early on, and at that point, and that had a lot to do with me constantly being in contact, going back and forth from Pakistan and here, just knowing that there is a zero sum nature to this. There is these things are conjoined. I think that has become more proliferated over the past 8 years. Trump coming to power accelerated this, and I think we talked about this earlier. Demarcated like the movement here between reform and international revolution.
Yeah.
People who did not have an internationalist perspective, in my opinion, gravitated towards anti-Trump hysteria.
Yeah.
And the liberal elite here, the intelligentsia, which again, that is what the main influence of the diaspora PMC is, naturally were mobilized by anti-Trump hysteria, and unconsciously, subconsciously, I would say unconsciously at times,
unconsciously,
we're kind of became embedded into like the democratic machine, their democratic propaganda machine, the democratic hamster wheel of, hey, the next election, the most important election. I heard this recently. The 2020 election is the most.
They already started saying that.
Yeah, and you hear it all the time. It's a cliche now. Like it's a way to like, honestly, this has become a way to like the breaking newsification. I would say of everything has made it like really made people immune to act like, just like feeling anything about like, oh, there's a tariff, there's this. Yeah, you like just take it on the chin and keep moving. And very Pakistani like ethic, honestly, that we're gonna live up to hopefully at some point. I really feel like I felt in 2020 we were at a point where we can go toward the Scandinavian demise, where our colonies overseas have been stripped from us, and but now we can have a sort of a welfare state here. And if we had gone the Bernie route.
Yeah, whatever state we have now is getting gutted.
Yeah.
And
that was the other option, which was the British route, which is like, hey, the hollowing out of public goods, the selling of public assets, and the codifying of continuous immiseration of the population. We will make sure that you are on a calorie count.
Yeah.
And not because we necessarily care about your calorie count in that sense, but this is the amount that we have. This is what is the bare minimum you need, and the rest has to be consumed as profit.
Yeah. So, and in that sense, you come here, want to rub shoulders. I keep coming back to this thing. You're in the king's court, right? But what are you? You're the commodity. Your attention is the commodity. It's not you that's making money off of whatever. It's you that's being made money off of. Yeah. And you're in the rat race of within that. That's the matrix, right? You're operating within that under the assumption that like, oh, I'm making money off of this. Oh, advertisers, whatever. I was watching a video the other day of like how, and it was going into the sale of your personal data online, right? And you know that like your data is being sold and whatnot, but this guy did a deep dive, and it's just crazy the amount of you are the commodity. You clicking, scrolling. I mean, phones have like facial recognition, and now like the algorithms are like looking at where on the screen you're looking at. Your gaze is the commodity. Yeah. And here
You
we
are
are.
you think you're the consumer, and you're the one being consumed as profit and
exactly.
wealth. I mean, we find ourselves so close to the end of the supply chain that we think we're the consumer, and I mean, rightfully so.
Sure.
And I'm sure in the technical sense we are.
Yeah.
But like you said, the commodity actually we are the thing being consumed at the end as wealth by the corporation. Which is why, like, what constitutes a labor force, and what is the relationship of labor to the state here, the imperial state, and its client states and those comprador classes that run those, as well as the labor in those countries. Now, I think I talked about it, like the labor class here has been like, if you don't produce anything as an economy, naturally the labor class shrinks. Yeah. The labor class here is consumed with, I mean, I'm talking about the actual labor. I'm not talking about the design and stuff like that. Like oil rigs, coal mining, things like that, trucking, and those are slowly vanishing on its own or being offshored, or those are such integral parts. And this is the main thing. Those are such integral parts of the imperial project from its origin, that you think that this is going to be the front that we're going to win it on. This is the actual state. This we want to view the state as a machine that is Revenge of the Sith type, like Star Wars Empire, that is moving in some kind of like a robotic sense, and in reality it's like a weird mishmash of competing interests that have just found themselves, and instead of being motivated by some like postmodernist some dystopian it's not some Mad Max take over everything and take all the women and kill everyone type thing. It's just growing more and more profit, and taking on at times an ideological cloak to it, but it's much more like they're putting the primitive in primitive accumulation, and those interests, when you look down into the history of it from 1865 onwards, with those MOUs that we issued to people, naturally those companies have consolidated over time, and we are seeing in front of us these few defense contractors, few mercenary groups, few railroad companies. They're the ones that run the state. They're the ones that are actually the operators of the state. The operators, obviously the decision making is bestowed upon the financialized classes, but the main arteries of the state are these 3-4 industries, and those are what comprise the labor force. And we saw with the railroad strike, you can try it, and there will be full force applied by the state, naked in its nature, uncovered by the media. No one will give a fuck. Yeah. No one cares, because their goods will get here on time. Right. And with this tariff, people of me and you, of our interest at heart, a lot of people you'll see anti-tariff, because what will it do to goods here and the cheap labor, the cheap finished goods that we acquire from around the world, not thinking that this is the extraction from those countries that inadvertently is being cut off by these Trump tariffs.
Right. You mentioned, and this reminded me, in the 1800s, and we're talking about labor and different things like that. There are so many precedents, for what is going on now, and for you can look at history. I mean, the writing is in the water as to how we got to a point where somebody like Trump can come in and whatnot. But the time scale of which society generally thinks is very short. And I've noticed that when reading works by writers, journalists, whatever, internationally versus just kind of being in the mix over here, is that folks here are thinking on a very short time scale. To what degree can you effectively galvanize a population, mobilize a population sustainably, and have that be a sustained thing when the memory is so short and the immediate thought, the immediacy of, well, what about my cheap products, is just right in front of you. And I think this is going back to like one thing that we talked about is Trump misunderstanding China, right? This understanding that somehow there's an equal playing field here and China is just being a prick right now. They're just really being a prick right now. And people go along with that because it makes you a victim, but not in a like a weak like pussy way. It's in the Trump way where it's like, you know, there's a bravado and there's like, oh, we're gonna fight back. From the Chinese point of view, the past couple hundred years are a blip in their history of their sublime history. You know, like it's a blip in the 4,000 years of, and I think even that comes down to like even the population. It's so much harder to try to get somebody to understand the historical context within which all of this is happening, and the fact that these things are not events or just incidents, but it's part of an ebb and flow of history, a continuous thing in which they have a place, because just categorically. That, I think, is a huge reason as to why the population is so compliant. Is because yesterday was just... And now take a diaspora person. You literally just got here yesterday. You have no memory of anything. Of anything. You were being removed from your roots, right? So your background in Pakistan or in Cambodia or wherever, it's heritage now, quote unquote heritage, right? Celebrating your heritage. What is bygone thing of the past? And all you have left of it is, you know, your skin color or whatever. Well, your memory is even shorter. Well, because you're starting off as, we came to America, we caught a come up, now I'm here. And so your entire thing is based on this class interest. There is no, like, again, like the story of slavery. It's past. It's way back. Native Americans were genocide. Oh, we take that's for granted. We're here now.
Yeah.
And it leads to the question that if you think about it, coming here puts this burden on you. The way I see it, it puts this burden on you where you have to be because now you are in the core of empire. Now where you're aligned, you're a beneficiary of what your family, your people, let's say your people were and your people still are, as far as your background goes, losing out because of, right? And you should at the very least speak up, right? It's debatable how much material change can actually be made. We've talked about this, right? And given the state of things, it's bleak. But at the very least, you would imagine that there would be an obligation to, I hate using this, so cringe and cliche, truth to power. Is that cringe or is that just me? I don't know.
It's been made cringe because of, like, I guess, I don't know. I don't think it's cringe.
I don't think the concept is cringe.
I feel like me and you.
I was about to say it and then I just got this thing in my head.
As in, like, that would feel like the normative thing.
Yeah.
Like, if you, like, you know, walk on the street and you don't, like, you know, you think something is wrong, you're able to, like, fix it or say, like, this is wrong or something.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, as in, like, it's a normative way of living, in my opinion.
Right.
There's no, like,
that should be,
there's
right?
nothing profound.
But the thing is, then that is, in a way, maybe the lightest form of non-compliance. Right? Well, you're still being compliant, but in a very small way, you are being non-compliant. At least when it comes to towing the line on speech, on thought, on the flow of ideas. Yeah. And
no one's forcing you to think something.
Right? So it's almost evil to be like, no. when what you're saying no to is essentially you're saying I want to eat more off of everyone else's back and just say bad stuff when I'll talk shit about the king with the other gestures. I keep going back to that shit.
That is the best
Because
analogy
you know where
for
that
this.
analogy came from? There's every community has their Uncle Tom, their compliant house servant. And there was a scholar, a Shia scholar, who met with like some. I think he met with King Edward, or not whatever king whatever, and some like Zionist rabbi or something like that, whose son is like in the IDF or something like that. He's like fighting right now or something, and there was like this debate I had in like this group chat where it was like three of us. We were like, "Yo, man, this was like complete." Or no, it was like four of us. We were like, "Yo, this is messed up. Like, you can't be doing this. How are you?" And basically they signed like an MOU between like the Jewish community and the British government and like that community as to like basically an MOU of compliance, right? We're against anti-Semitism and Islamophobia and blah 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 blah, and it was just a bunch of fluff. There was nothing really tangible there, and that's where it came from. Like, are the benefits of being a jester in the king's court worth aligning yourself with a genocidal establishment and parlaying with people whose literally are their sons are committing genocide right now? And so I said that in the group chat. I was like, is it worth being that a jester in the king's court? Because there were some people who were like, no, like you like he was trying to look out for the stability of the community, and it's good to be cool with the government or whatever. Is it worth it? Is it worth it? You're licking blood off of the boot of the colonizer who has crushed your people under that boot, and you're just.
And also, who gave you the authority to negotiate on behalf of other people?
And that's the other thing, yeah.
Like, it's
who
like me going.
Who made you my spokesperson?
It's like me being like, "Hey guys, I'm gonna speak for for reparations now. Like, I'm the spokesperson." It's like, but why? Why are you the
reparations
guy?
in Pakistan?
Or I mean, reparations in like Papua New Guinea or something.
Yeah.
I don't know. But I feel like that is this like like give and take nature of this transaction that we have to commit as a PMC elite, maybe diaspora elite. Even though like in the 80s, a diaspora was like people expats were more like doing odd jobs. In the 90s even, I think in the 2000s where you see like a course correction, so to speak, of hey, now we have only brain drain happening, where we only have like skilled quote unquote workers coming here. But this transactional nature of the state deciding, hey, we've expanded our power and we'll give you this in exchange for this, which is okay. Well, before, like we talked about, it was westward expansion, go settle land. That's all we're gonna give you in exchange for you just settling the land for us, I guess, or whatnot. Just you are the citizen. This is what we give our citizenry.
Yeah, this is the deal. And
you see, it's after that gets westward expansion ends after like. Now it's more of a. Initial labor movements are put down violently in the 1880s, 1890s, and you have an influx of labor coming in to keep the wages lower from Europe, Ireland specifically, and those people, like you said, are stripped of any. They're stripped of any understanding of politics beyond like when they reached the U.S. But they have the memory of the Irish famine.
Yeah.
And they know how it was back home.
Right.
And what caused it, what didn't cause this is one thing. This is heaven compared to that.
Yeah.
I mean, specifically in the Irish situation, I mean, they've still not recovered from that population collapse. To give context to what these people are thinking, and now they make this transaction here. At first, it was the land. When that gets sapped, and now this labor upheaval is happening against the joint power of the state and corporations who are able to put this down. You see in the 1920s the stock market emerging as what we can transact with you. In the interim period, they use the Civil Service Act to an extent to have a professionalized civil service, professionalized people at the ports. These things becoming depoliticized, in their opinion, but actually just abrogating the authority of the state and operating as independent contractors with their own personal interests in mind.
Yeah.
You can see that is actually how the Democratic Party operates today. People like you will see with I think you saw with like a very small example of this is the Squad when they said they don't operate as a
they
caucus.
don't operate as a bloc. Yeah.
Yeah, and that is because
They don't
these
vote as a
people
bloc.
operate as individual contractors of their caucus, of their constituency.
Yeah.
And they are just they're franchisees of McDonald's. They have as much allegiance to the Democratic Party or like its values as a Subway owner has to Subway's original ideals. This exchange culminates post World War II into the suburban housing, which we see today is what the exchange is still kind of comprised of for the most part.
Yeah.
Even though post Obama, that has become a much more tentative deal, and this is if post New Deal, this will be the tentative
deal.
Yeah, the terms and conditions deal. Like,
Yeah.
hey, the tentative deal. Like, we might give you something if like you make this transaction of
But
continuously.
who wants to read the fine print? Just hit I accept and go with it.
Yeah. Instead of you getting a settlement or a homestead, now you get this house, 3,500, 4,000 square feet in the suburbs, an hour away from the main city.
4,000.
4,000 square
It's a
feet.
big house.
A lot.
A lot.
I'm just
okay.
talking about the lot. Yeah,
Okay.
4,000 square foot. I mean, even that, if it's in the middle of nowhere, like if I give you
Then it's gonna be yeah.
I mean,
Depending on where you.
I mean, regardless, these people got it in away from the main urban population that was comprised of immigrants and black people, so they were like happy with that.
Yeah.
And the professionalized classes have now found their way. Professionalized and military class has found their way outside of the urban environment, detached from the population that they're gonna administer over. And that is where me and you find ourselves in to an extent. I mean, my dad and me, we always worked blue collar all our lives.
Yeah.
And even back home, we don't come necessarily from a strictly white collar background.
Right. Yeah.
But the entry, the transaction that we are looking for is, hey, I'm next in line for this homestead.
Yeah.
For this access to cheap finished goods and an overall, I guess, the illusion of security and a better, higher standard of living based on the access to cheap goods.
Right.
And small luxuries, which if you look at it now, you don't have access to. I mean, I'll be honest, like, thank God, like, I was making a considerable amount of money right now. I don't think I'm a cheap person. I don't want to go watch a movie and spend $40. Like, go watch a movie that will be on stream in a month. I'm gonna go watch pay $20 for popcorn and peanuts or something. Like, why would I do that?
I hesitate even eating food. Bro, food has gotten more expensive.
Yeah. Like, why are you spending $10 on a Whataburger? Like, what? These were cheap goods, made movie going fast food for the working class.
Yeah.
And now you see slowly even those things becoming. I mean, we're living in an urban, one of the biggest urban centers in the country.
Yeah.
People in Kansas, Missouri, Mississippi, I'm not sure realistically what your access is to these cheap goods that were made only to serve it. Not only to service this class. Like, hey, your life is fucked, but you can get this, go to your pub and get drunk or take your family to watch a movie. And those things slowly, you have access to the cheap alcohol and the cheap drugs still, which is the only mainstay in this capitalist order, post-1800s, constantly getting people hooked on tobacco, opium, alcohol.
Yeah.
And at first they were just doing that to, outside of the empire, and now you see the empire getting its people hooked onto opiates and weed, alcohol.
I don't know if this is intentional. Well, I'm sure it's not intentional, but I think it's really. I get a kick out of this All right, the U.S. flooded China with opium to, and doped up their population.
The British?
The British. Now the U.S. is the inheritor of the British Empire, and China has flooded the U.S. youth with TikTok, and is frying their brains with TikTok. Checkmate.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we ended up giving all the basically extracted all the opium from Afghanistan and gave it to our population.
Well, yeah, we did that.
And so it's like we've just like it's been like for the average.
So now they're on
here,
opium and on TikTok.
I mean, think about it. Like the average person, the working class here.
Yeah.
I mean, whatever is left of it, whatever we think is working class people. I guess right now who work in Baytown at an oil refinery,
right?
Making whatever.
Yeah.
Like I think the median income here is in this country is below 40 grand, which is like
below 40.
39,
like 48 or something.
Like 39.5.
39.5. No way.
I mean, I just googled it, but I mean,
okay,
I mean, honest. I mean, I think the average was around 60, and again, 60 even if you think about it is like what, like after taxes, $4 grand a month.
Tough.
Yeah.
Tough.
Like between groceries, gas, and like car, housing, like you're not really left with much.
Yeah.
So you're gonna like post 70s onwards, you're seeing this, and I think Obama really highlighted this trying to restructure the New Deal, and I think now is the time where this becomes the tentative deal. I know the square deal was a part of the equation for a while. I think that's a square deal was Truman's deal. I believe he tried. I'm not sure. I might have to fact check. He tried doing the square deal to kind of solidify a New Deal ethics, and he was like, I mean, for all of his issues, he believed in FDR's project to the extent that he wanted to keep it alive after FDR for all of his other issues. First among them being an idiot, he was a dumbass. But yeah, you're gonna see like this new tentative deal take form, and now we're gonna see this nationalism that has been disconnected and just cleaved from its main home body, its mother, like Queen Bee, whatever, Mother Bee.
Yeah.
And now you're gonna see it find this new identity, formulate it, like mold itself into either like a liberal elite class here that just like functions as one of the many arms of the octopus, or finds that it is increasingly its own interests within the empire are being transgressed upon. Its own interests, meaning with this tentative deal, if you are not getting the transaction of the house anymore, if you're not getting the transaction of cheap credit, if you're not getting the transaction like that access to cheap finished goods from the international marketplace, if you have to go work in a fucking mine with your hands, then suddenly you're like, wait a minute. That mobilizes the folk more than the reality of their existence and their standard of living being sustained here. So it'll be an interesting next 50 year period of this realignment going on. This is accelerated. When we zoom out, and hopefully we can get into this next time, viewing this from like a 300, 400, 500 year, and like viewing this progression historically in like
eras.
In like 300, 400 year blocks of things unfolding. For this period, let's say post 30-year war, what's been unfolding, post 100-year war, what's been unfolding, as far as global exchange.
Yeah.
And I think when we look at the Bronze Age, we look at these global relations deteriorating, and because the trade relations deteriorating, hopefully we're gonna try to examine this normatively and in a predictive way of like how this is shaping, how we look at this time period 300, 400 years from now.
Yeah. It's a question I think about sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully we'll think about it and dive into this in season 3. I mean, I'm looking forward to like, man, it's been like 4 years of us doing this, and we've put out 2 seasons worth of stuff now, and I didn't know nothing about this, like recording and like putting it out online, and neither did you.
Podcasting,
I think.
yeah.
But I'm hoping, in season 3, like whatever efforts we've put in so far kind of come into fruition now.
Yeah.
Like now,
Yeah.
all the pieces are like, we've done the legwork, we've done the hard work, and now, same way we're talking about the nationalist thing, where like things find their identity, and they mold themselves over time, instead of just inheriting wherever, like whatever the normative situation was before. Now that you found yourself in a new era, a new stage of life. I mean, 4 years is a long time. You remember? In those 4 years, like I moved,
Develops
I got
a lot.
married. I mean, there's like things change, your ideas change, and I think
there should be a progression.
And for us,
it's been interesting.
When we started this, it was definitely a little bit like, hey, we need to get our voice out there. Like, I felt like this was one of the only places online that I can sustainably get my point of view out.
Yeah.
Without unbridled by red tape, by communal issues, by who to like talk to next, blah blah blah. Talk to Falane Bhai to get this done. And it's like, what the hell, bro? I just want to tell people to vote, and I gotta go like do all this bullshit, figure out who's gonna fund the pizza. Like,
that's crazy,
I'm not.
Man.
I'm thinking about like twice before eating, like at Taco Bell, Ubering in like 2015, 16.
Now I gotta look at these receipts.
Yeah, but now I gotta figure out who's gonna fund y'all's pizza, so you can like tell me that it's haram to vote or something. But whatever the BS was, right?
That or
I thought this was originally a way out of this and get my opinion on history, on like different geopolitical matters out. But over time, I mean, you can speak for from your perspective. Over time, I found myself viewing things just in a different way, and for lack of a better term, much more relaxed, and understanding this is a historical progression. This is a historical process that we are a part of. We're taking place. We're actors within, and it's so big that, and it is a science in a way when you get into it, that you can predict how it's gonna end, what's gonna happen. Spiritually, you just want to be aligned with what you feel is right in that process, and it's the mode of analysis and what I find is possible, what I want to do, how much I want to be a part of this empire while it exists, because its reach is so overarching that you will never truly escape its expansive like power until you're just in a cave somewhere. But I mean, you can figure out ways, in my opinion, and I've tried doing this, where leaving the country or something along those lines, where you can like at least not be a direct, I guess, be like the direct victim of like the cultural rot that takes place during this time in an empire's life cycle. This phase of the empire is dangerous for its populace. And me having no allegiance to this up and coming Shia, Sunni, whatever Muslim, evangelical Muslim nationalist group, and already finding the cringiness that's going to be part of it. All the boys coming up in shallah kameez and Jordans, like I'm just not really like looking forward to that. But what is your perspective?
No, you look back at that. My perspective is I'm really the same. You said that it was very well worded, but over time there have definitely been like certain inflection points, I think, where like the world has shifted consequentially, and with that I think there's been a kind of development and a refinement process in refining my lens with which or lenses, honestly, with which you can kind of look at how things are unfolding and make sense of what's going on. One of them being like the time scale, going from thinking in years and decades to looking at things in eras, centuries, and whatnot. And it's been it's been good to be informed by that, and this is just the beginning. Honestly, I think there's so much more growth for me, and like with our discussions, like where we've been taking this. We started out just like sitting in my garage, just shooting the shit during COVID, to now, and like I think back to again like all that we've talked about even in this episode. We mentioned Bernie Sanders, Russia, Ukraine, and there's plenty of other things, and so I'm just I mean let's see how things unfold, and again like trying to be on the right side of things as it happens, at least by doing what you can, and talking about it is I think the very least that you can do.
And I mean, throughout this process, man, like, very few people whose perspective on this has informed my own, right?
Likewise.
Like yours, and it's
Likewise.
been, like, you know, this whole project so far, and, like, where I foresee us going in the next 2 years. And I don't mean getting famous on YouTube. I mean, like, just, like, you know, getting our voice and our perspective out there.
Although, if we can take advantage of that algorithm and get into your algorithm, and maybe we can make money off of you by putting ads in our videos and getting sponsored by NordVPN or what, Atlas VPN or whatever the new. Hey, all right,
gold.
Can y'all sponsor us for that one?
Or like gold, the buy gold people.
Bro, we'll drop an NFT.
That's not a thing anymore.
It's not a thing anymore.
People stopped.
People stopped doing that. Yeah.
That market crash.
Yo, crypto is going crazy though.
Man, what?
We'll talk about that because that's a whole nother.
Yeah, we'll see how this because like we don't know how the next 2 weeks like he dropped some new tariff news and now crypto's tanked.
No, that'll be great for me. Like we'll talk about it. We'll talk about it. Crypto has been the new anyway. Yeah. Until next time.
For sure, bro.
This is the tentative era.
The tentative
Manufacturing
deal.
descent out.